Hi, I'm Jaemarie Solyst. The title of this talk and paper is I Would Like to Design Black Girls Analyzing and Ideating Fair and Accountable AI. Today, AI technology is ubiquitous, with children being regular users of AI-driven technology, ranging from social media platforms to algorithms making higher stakes decisions. However, AI can have algorithmic bias, which can cause harm. For users who are especially not well represented in tech, there is increased harm from AI. For example, girls and women are often excluded from tech, with only 14% of AI researchers on publications being women. Yet they are disproportionately affected by algorithmic bias, such as in AI-driven voice recognition and hiring tools. Algorithmic bias has also harmed children. For example, the UK deployed an algorithm to predict A-level grades for students, which had bias that harmed those from lower resource backgrounds in their trajectory to universities. Many youth and their families protested the algorithm, which resulted in the UK stopping the algorithm's use. Additionally, child users may be regularly exposed to racism and gender injustice embedded in and facilitated by AI-driven technologies. In short, fair AI is a child-facing matter. On one side, there's a call for action for practitioners and companies to create more fair AI. On the other side, with users, AI literacy can support individuals' agency, giving them the ability to make important, informed decisions, as well as better advocate for their rights and participate in critical conversations about AI. Due to the increased harm that people from marginalized backgrounds face, AI literacy can be especially important. We center this study on Black girls in middle school. Black users and communities have faced additional barriers and bias in AI-driven technologies, and we also focus on middle school since it is a prime age for learners to develop a science or STEM identity. Overall, more work needs to be done to learn specifically about how Black girls, a group rarely centered in prior work on AI education, can have effective, culturally responsive AI literacy support. We ran an exploratory study to investigate this. The study explored 3 questions. How do Black girls define fairness in AI, consider the types of AI in their perceptions of it, and imagine future procedures, including processes and accountability for stakeholders to create fair AI. We took a workshop approach to answer these questions. Workshop as a methodology can be used in HCI to explore values, needs, and opinions of participants. They help to shift focus away from researchers, which is important in addressing power dynamics between adult researchers and youth learners in this context. We partnered with a predominantly Black school to offer workshops in the form of a multi-session summer camp and after-school session. 10 Black girls in middle school enrolled in our programs. 7 out of the 10 did not have prior experience with computing topics. Over 3 2-hour-long sessions over 2 days, we ran a number of workshop activities. We opened with an open-ended discussion with prompted questions, asking if they could give examples of AI, how they would define AI, and what fairness meant to them. After this, we also gave them additional examples of AI and a high-level definition. We then gave them a short drawing and writing activity where they individually came up with 2 stories about AI. One where an interaction with AI was more fair, and one where an interaction was less fair. We then discussed 5 algorithms. We introduced the algorithm at hand and a potentially unfair scenario for the learners to discuss. For example, we presented a voice recognition algorithm with the scenario of it not working for certain accents, and another example with a public school lottery algorithm with enrollment prioritization for students with a sibling at the school already, or prioritization for those experiencing poverty. Additional information about algorithm examples can be found in the paper. For each algorithm and scenario, we asked in a group discussion what learners thought the motivation was behind creating the technology in the first place, if the scenario at hand was fair, and who potentially should be responsible to make it more fair. We then had a more formal lesson about AI where we defined an algorithm and AI in more technical detail, but still on a somewhat high level. We then discussed training data and algorithmic bias. Short interactive activities and group discussions were embedded in the lesson. And lastly was a final project where learners completed a project booklet with drawing and writing. Learners imagined an AI that they'd like to exist to help solve a problem that was important to them. They considered how their fictional AI could help facilitate a fairer future, as well as how it may unintentionally cause harm and who might help mitigate possible harms. Prompts additionally asked learners to consider who could help make the technology. We used thematic analysis on the learner's artifacts, transcribed recordings of the session and discussion, and our own research notes. I'll next present the results. First, when it came to defining fairness, learners brought up the concept of equality. With some support, they were able to discuss more complex concepts such as equity, but most ideas were still related to equality. Learners also described niceness and kindness as fair. In terms of their thinking about how AI decisions should impact people, it was important to the learners that AI supported equal access, but still weighted merit and hard work over other factors for high-stakes decisions. For example, learners believed the public school lottery should not favor an applicant if they have a sibling at the school, and the algorithm should prioritize those who have worked hard. Interestingly, we also saw that the learners believed that users should work around faulty AI. For example, if AI-driven voice recognition doesn't work for some accents, the user could leverage other means to achieve their goal. We saw that the examples that learners resonated most with were ones that they had had direct experience with, such as autocorrect when their names were not recognized by the technology. Many of the learners had culturally Black American names, which had been autocorrected regularly. Most learners voiced that they would trust computers more to make higher stakes decisions over humans. Before learning about algorithmic bias in the lesson, many learners seemed to suggest that AI would not reflect societal bias. In thinking about processes for creating fair AI, they considered most heavily the original creators and technologists to be responsible for fixing unfair AI. They also brought up figures of power, such as the mayor or celebrities like Chris Pratt, to help use their platforms to advocate for fair AI. Most learners, without being prompted to, differentiated strongly between designer and builder roles in their final project activity. Many stated that they specifically wanted to be in an empowered designer role and call the shots when creating futuristic AI technology. They were skeptical of adults helping in designer roles since they were not sure that their values would be shared, but they were interested in support that others could lend for building the technologies that they thought of. The learners' identities were also reflected in the technology designs that they came up with. For example, 2 learners who created AI-powered robot ideas designed their robots to have hairstyles like theirs. Another learner ideated an AI that would encourage boys to be kinder as she related her experiences of feeling discriminated against by boys in sports class. Next, I'll cover 2 takeaways. First, we emphasize critical consciousness to support AI literacy. The girls needed some support to consistently identify systemic racism embedded in AI technology. For example, many were unsure or did not believe it was unfair that voice recognition technology may not work for certain accents. However, when their names were not recognized by technology due to it being biased toward white Western names, this was seen as undoubtedly unfair. Critical consciousness stemming from Black feminism refers to the ability to recognize and critique systems of oppression, as well as take action against oppressive systems. Critical consciousness does not come automatically, and it can be cultivated through reflection and analysis. AI literacy programs could help to foster critical consciousness in the context of AI. We next emphasize change-making and STEM leadership. We saw that the learners had a strong interest in designing, but weren't as sure about building. In fact, many saw designing as a more empowered role where they could make decisions about technology, especially ones that they did not think should be made for them by people that they didn't trust. Many programs primarily emphasize coding and programming for computing literacy, which is important, but equally as important may be positioning learners and encouraging them to consider design and leadership positions as a pathway towards change-making. We believe that these findings and takeaways can support creation of more learner-centered AI literacy opportunities for Black girls. Thank you so much for listening to my talk. Please connect with me if you'd like to chat more.